I think so. I think I did. For the UC schools. I didn't for the other schools because I'd already applied when I got it.
Okay, I'm over here.
Technically you don't have it yet, I don't think, but like not really. You know what I mean? So.
Always not here.
Yeah, like I thought it was last. What is this?
They have to like, once you pass the test, you have to like, you have to like, your schools and your Spanish schools and there's like computer.
Yeah. It's like for national grade, like you have to get
It's really hard test.
I know.
I mean, y'all have nothing to worry about though.
Stop, that's scary.
What is it?
You wanna see my outfit? Like the theme for the spread is ski. That's what I'm
That's
wearing.
cute. Oh, that is
We
cute.
like this.
I'll be in like
I feel like we're
cheers.
gonna be wearing just like that, but I'm gonna be out here in overalls. But
It'll be warmer than them. Like those are actually warm.
I also got this jacket because I think it's cute and I'll use it. It's like cute. Okay, which design do you guys like better for Christmas? For like to make something like
Ooh.
this?
For what?
I don't know, maybe just like on a design. Or this colorful one.
Wait, go back to the other one. The colors are you're talking about.
Brady, Matthew, Aiden.
Yeah, I did it. Because I did it during dog cruise. I spent all of that time studying. I actually did better. I got a 46 out of 50. Yeah, I thought I did. I just took like the longest time ever. I took 12 hours. Wait, world history, that's my regular world.
Okay, I guess our speakers are not going to work today. I'm not sure, but I did ask you to correct, if you needed to, number 59 and turn that into Google Classroom. If you did not do that, I will still take it right now for full credit. And you also need to get out your review number 62. Okay, so we've got the entire class period to work on, finish up, ask questions, get help on the test review. In fact, in just a second here, I'll go ahead and start off with your questions if you know you have some, since you had some time to look at some of it last time and get started on it. I guess if you don't have questions, you can just kind of keep going at your own pace here. But I did want to give you a few pieces of information about our quiz, which will be next class, because there is only one more class. But let me double check one thing before I say it out loud. Okay, so our quiz next time, I guess part of it is you could debate whether it's a quiz or a test. It's pretty standard length, 9 multiple choice, 1 FRQ. That's what I wanted to double check before I said. So you may consider that a test. I'm just calling it a quiz because there's almost nothing new compared to the Unit 4 test. The increasing, decreasing intervals, first derivative test to find relative maxes and mins, second derivative test to find relative max and mins, second derivative to find concavity, knowing what a point of inflection is, how to find it, knowing what a critical point is, how to find it. Again, the main new thing in this unit was the curve sketching piece, which is just you pull it all together, you get a couple points on the graph, plug in x values into the function, solve for y, and then between those points, knowing when it increases and decreases, knowing when it's concave up, concave down, is enough to get an accurate graph, and that's what's referred to as curve sketching. So that's why I call it a quiz, because I just don't really see it as a lot of new information, but it is standard length. We also count this as, well, try to do this as a good opportunity for you because semester's ending up pretty soon. When we come back from break, we have 2 weeks and 2 days, and then it's finals. So that's really 6 class periods together. And of course, we've got some other stuff that we need to do besides just review for the final. So for this quiz, we count it as another 50 point major grade. So again, that's probably a little bit too nice because since it's a lot of the same stuff that you've already been assessed on, but it gives you an extra opportunity, an extra 50 point grade. And we do count this one as a grade match. And what I mean by that is, let's say you made a 80 on your Unit 4 test, but if you make a 95 on the curve sketching, you get the 95 score on the curve sketching, and I will go back and replace your Unit 4 with the 95 as well. Since it's basically the same content, we allow that as a grade match. So if you feel like you missed the mark on Unit 4, it's a lot of the same stuff, you still need to learn it. But really your last super big opportunity with the semester ending. So hopefully that motivates you to make sure that you know this as well as possible. Any questions about the curve sketching quiz? Just general questions. Okay, then let me go ahead and start off with questions that you may have. Again, I know last time y'all had 30, 40, 50 minutes to work on the review, so you probably saw some questions you weren't as comfortable with. So if that is not you, you can tune me out here and work on your own for a few minutes. And if that is you, let me know what it is so we can address those on the board. Go for it, Julie.
Can you remind us of all the rules for like when you're looking for limits? It's part of the multiple choice, or I guess not multiple choice, but it's like
Question
final
1?
limits. Yes, those.
Yeah, to be honest, I'm not sure that this is even on the quiz, but we did do this in Unit 1, and if it's on the review, there's a chance that it could be on the test. So, first off, notice that these are not just limit questions. These are called infinite limit questions because they're only as x approaches infinity or negative infinity. So visually, as x approaches positive infinity or negative infinity, you're talking about the far extremes of the graph. So the first connection you need to make is that if you're talking about either the far right or far left of the graph, that is basically the same thing as horizontal asymptote. And then there's 3 rules for horizontal asymptotes. You have to compare the degree of the numerator to the degree of the denominator. When the degree of the numerator is bigger, it doesn't have a horizontal asymptote. That means it either goes to infinity or negative infinity, but we could say does not exist either way. When the denominator is bigger, it goes to 0. And the only other possibility is they're equal, and that's when you put leading coefficient over leading coefficient. So when I look at these, I don't really think of these as limit questions. I recognize this as, hey, this is just referring to the far left or far right of the graph, so they really just want me to do horizontal asymptote. So on A, since the degree of the denominator is bigger than the degree of the numerator, this is going to approach what? 0. Whether you're asked as x approaches infinity or x approaches negative infinity, it'd be 0 either way. Just using this horizontal asymptote rule. Okay, over here, it looks like the degrees are equal. So that means that this function, the further you go to the right or the left, is going to get closer and closer to what? You say 5/7? Okay, that's correct. And then this one's just in multiple parts. So looking at everyone's work yesterday, this is the one that we, of course I didn't see y'all yesterday, it was my other class, but the limit of 4 is not 0. The derivative of 4 would be 0, but the limit of 4 is not 0. So if you don't remember that property, think about what 4 looks like as a graph. As you go to the far right or far left, it's always going to be 4. No matter what x value you're approaching, it's always approaching a y value of 4. Okay, what about from this little group? What is that going to come out to be? Okay. And then based on this group, what is all that going to go to?
0.
So 4 minus a half would be 2.5 or 5/2. So basically horizontal asymptote rules, but you need to understand why it's horizontal asymptote rules for you to be able to do that. Actually, you know what? Let's, I've not shown this to you yet this year, but I think you're probably at the point where you might appreciate it now that you guys can do derivatives. There is also something called, and you will need to know this later on in the year, you don't have to know it right now, but it does help you with limits. There is something called L'Hopital's rule, where if you get indeterminate form, 0/0, or positive and negative infinity over positive or negative infinity. All of these are considered indeterminate forms. The first few weeks of school we talked about this one a lot, but this is also indeterminate form. So when I look at question A, if I just tried to plug in infinity, do you see how it goes to infinity on the top and infinity on the bottom? Number 1A. Okay, so if you forgot the horizontal asymptote rules, and this applies to all limits, you can actually use derivatives to help you with limit questions. This was part A. L'Hopital's rule says that if you get indeterminate form, any of these, you can take the derivative of the numerator, which would become what? Over the derivative of the denominator, which would become, and then you can try direct substitution again. If it's still indeterminate form, you apply L'Hopital's rule again, derivative of the numerator over the derivative of the denominator. But this would not be indeterminate form anymore. If I try to plug infinity, if my numerator is stuck at 1 and my denominator just keeps getting bigger, what is that fraction going to? Okay, it's 1 over infinity, which is going to 0. Same answer we got on part A, right? So notice, I'll just do one more. This one's kind of silly to do L'Hopital's rule, but it's, I don't know, it doesn't hurt for you to see. If I tried to directly substitute infinity into all these x's, I would get infinity over infinity. So L'Hopital's rule says, well, why don't you take the derivative of the numerator over the derivative of the denominator and try again. If it's still indeterminate form, which this one is, you could do it again. Bring the power down, lower the power by 1. I don't know, 35 times 5 would be, what's that, 175?
Isn't it 42, not 37?
Oh yeah, that matters too. So that would be 210. Hold on, I lost. Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, does that look okay? Okay, y'all are not confident either here, so let's just use calculator. Okay, those are fine. Unfortunately, this is still indeterminate form, infinity over infinity, so you could do L'Hopital's rule again. Again, I told you it was kind of silly to do it on this one, but oops. This is really not equal unless I have the limit out front. Still indeterminate form. So we could do the derivative again. Still indeterminate form. So derivative of the numerator again. Over the derivative of the denominator. That's still infinity over infinity. One more time. Okay, and then the derivative of a constant, just like we did the limit of a constant, just like part C, the limit of 4 is 4. The limit of this would be this, and this reduces to, what should it reduce to? And it does. So, I'm certainly not encouraging you to use L'Hopital's rule instead of the horizontal asymptote rules. I'm just showing you L'Hopital's rule a little bit early in case you ever want it for limit questions. Indeterminate form, derivative of the numerator, derivative of the denominator, try again. Still indeterminate form, do it again. Still indeterminate form, do it again. Eventually, you get it down to not being indeterminate form. And I would have shown you that at the start of the year, but you didn't know how to do derivatives at that time. So that's why we didn't learn that then. Okay. So that's probably more than you wanted, but was there anything else about these three? Okay. Let's just take to page 1 first. Has anyone looked at or know you need help with 2, 3, 4, or 5? Okay, go ahead.
Can you just explain how we're going to need to know number 5 for the
It could just be a question where you have to have that memorized. I couldn't tell you what the question was going to be. Are you okay with the answer to it?
I just did volume and circumference. It didn't do like the volume for right circle or cylinder like the key.
Oh, okay. Yeah, you just need volume of a cylinder. So that would be area of the base times the height. Circumference in terms of the radius. Circumference of a circle in terms of r. That's all you need. I don't know why the answer key might have had more than that. I don't think I made this answer key. Again, there just might be some question where you have to have those memorized, so they're just giving you a heads up. Okay, then let's look on page 2 was 6 through 9. Again, I apologize that this did not print out great, and that's not double-sided, so it looks like a lot more work than it is. 6 was about finding increasing intervals. 7 was about finding relative maxes and mins. 8 was about point of inflection. 9 was about concave up. All sounds like stuff we've been doing, but any of those you've tried that you know you need help with, and you might as well ask at the start. Yes.
Can you do 7?
Yes, I can. Let's see, 7. Find the derivative of this, then locate the relative maxes and relative mins. Okay, so for this part, relative maxes and relative mins, I know I'm going to test around the critical numbers if I want to do first derivative test, or I would test the actual critical numbers in the second derivative test, but I do not want to find the second derivative here. For the first derivative, you've got some choices. If you want to algebraically multiply all this stuff together, just make sure that if you do that, x minus 2 squared means x minus 2 times an x minus 2. It's not x squared minus 4. You actually have to distribute all that. If you don't want to do that algebra first, then you're going to have to do the product rule, which is what I will do. So product rule, take the derivative of the first part, which would be 1, times the second part left alone, plus the derivative of the second part. Consider chain rule, but there is no chain rule, with the first part left alone. So find the derivative of this. If that was an FRQ question, you're welcome to stop there. But I need to know critical numbers so that I can answer the second half of this question. So critical numbers are where this is going to be undefined. This is not going to be undefined anywhere because we don't have any x's in the denominator, or where it equals 0. So what I notice, and this is kind of like one of those practice FRQs we did a week or two ago, this term and this term have a GCF. They both have an x minus 2. So I can factor that out. X minus 2 times x minus 2 gives me x minus 2 squared. And then x minus 2 times 2x plus 4, or 2x plus 8, gives me that. So GCF. Combine some like terms in here. This equals 0 at 2. And this equals 0 at negative 2. So this question, notice I didn't say anything about critical numbers, but I know critical numbers are the places that this graph might be changing direction. So this is where I want to test. So again, now it just kind of depends on if you prefer first derivative test or second derivative test. If you prefer second derivative test, you need to find the second derivative. I'm not interested in doing that, although I guess it wouldn't be too bad. First derivative test, you're going to test numbers around the critical numbers. So maybe try 0. We'd get negative times a positive, which is negative. Try something out here. This would be a positive times a positive, which is positive. And try something over here. Bless you. This would be negative times a negative, which would be positive. That line chart helps me see my answers pretty clearly. It looks like there's a relative max at x equals negative 2 and a relative min at x equals positive 2. Now I don't like the vagueness of this. When it says locate them, to me this is probably good enough, saying where the x values are. But if this was a multiple choice question and the choices were points instead, you need to make sure that you plug these values into the function, not into the derivative. If I plugged in 2 here, I would get 6 times 0. Wait, so that would be 0, so that's not a problem. Plug in negative 2 here. This would be 2 times negative 4 squared, which would be 16, so 32. So if you needed a point, make sure you plug those x values into the function. I'd say the hardest part about that one was just getting the derivative and finding the critical numbers. But this has been not an easy thing, but certainly a pretty common theme. If you need to solve something that looks like this, you need to be suspicious and looking for GCFs. If it has a GCF and you can pull it out front, it usually makes it pretty manageable after that. Okay, anything more specific about 7 for anybody? Okay, how about 6, 8, or 9? Anything else you've seen on page 2?
Mr. Tom, if you 7, if you just left it like with the line chart, would that be like good enough justification, or would you need to say relative?
This is not, for this case, this is not good enough justification. I could look at this and I can guess that you think this is a relative max and this is a relative min, because that's what happens when it goes up and then it goes down, or it goes down and goes up. But the reason why, well, first off, I don't even have this. The reason why this is not enough justification in this case, just because the first derivative is positive at -3 and negative at 0, doesn't mean that -2 is a relative max. You don't know what's happening at -2.5, at -2.1, at -1/2. So unless you explain why you know that you don't need to test those, which would be basically explaining to someone why critical numbers are important, that's not going to be good enough. If you need the justification, the best thing to do is to just state it independently. Relative max is because the first derivative went from negative to positive at that time. Relative min is because it was going down and then it's going up. Wait, hold on, that's not right. One of those is not right. Relative min, first derivative would be negative and then to positive. So up here, relative max, it should be going from positive to negative. This is plenty justification. But again, if you just leave the line chart, you're opening up new problems. Why didn't you test -1/2? If you don't explain that, then that's not sufficient enough. To say this is happening at that time, you're describing what happens right before and what's happening right after. So this is what you want to aim for. The easiest, most efficient. Okay, and then there was 2 practice FRQs, so I feel like you should be feeling a little bit better about those. Of course, part E on each of those is the actual curve sketching, so after you have all that information, pulling it into a graph. But anything that you know you'd like to ask about FRQ 1 or FRQ 2? Okay, then I will get out of your way for a minute here and let you pick up wherever you left off last class or over homework if you worked ahead a little bit. So ideally, you finish this up in class so that if you have any questions, you are here to ask. So please get focused on that and give me just a second and I will come around and help out the rest of class.
I haven't done that one yet.
It is. It's the okay. Yeah, we'll see. But then for like I ended up using the exact same. Like I looked at the Excel and then I wrote my comment out essay. Just fill in the comments and then I did it. That's all. But I'm fine for.
So you go up here and then up
But I've already applied to 3 colleges. Are they on essay options? No, one of their. Oh no. Yeah, I guess they are essay options. Yeah. I think I might have just done.
So you're solving it?
Yeah.
Yeah, all of us are solving for the bottom. But I always include it.
So it's just
Yeah,
it's
so
work that hard on
so
it.
like for A,
Yeah, like the, I did the
first
first
one.
prompts
So
for the scholarship. One like the invention or idea. One when I looked at any idea leisure time and like the 90.
But I plugged it into the calculator and like did it and how like and it's not in that popular.
Oh, because you're multiplying this by 2/3 to get rid of that.
It's important and then good qualities.
It's like if you plug in like -4 right there, you get -4 squared plus 2 times
There's your problem.
Oh, real?
When you type this one in like that, because your calculator does order of operations, squaring first, so 4 squared is 16. Then it's doing multiplication times
So then when you
negative 4.
multiply together,
Because negative 4 squared should be 16.
So then
just one.
you add one.
Remember when you multiply?
Because you're not squaring 4, you're squaring negative 4.
So like, thank you. And I was like,
So whenever,
so I like did one first. I did in cold blood, because actually that does
everything in the middle.
really impact me. Well, practically
Really
really
when it comes to like.
And then I got my other one.
Oh, just make sure.
I'm ready. I was
Concave up
like,
is-
I'm really proud of it.
Up
We're
like
like,
the
oh,
cup.
there's an interview.
So you gotta add some curvature to it. You do that without messing up the increasing, decreasing.
I was just saying -2 and 2 would be cool. But it's just so weird, like,
Okay, so
Actually, I
it's
did.
gonna bend down a little bit. That's way past
I just haven't read it
3.
enough time. Okay, and then I did
Okay.
bring my paddle.
and
I
then
don't,
for the apple.
that's supposed to be increasing the whole time.
So
So,
how would you
Like,
guys-
the string- the
this
string-
see very
salesman was
carefully.
interviewing
That's
this
like
man about buying
yellow,
life
you know what I'm talking
or
about?
whatever, and then after
down.
The ball
that's why I
flying.
didn't
Something like that.
Huh?
Just barely. I mean, if you graph that on your calculator, I bet you won't even notice. I bet you can't even see that.
Oh, Jesus.
So she's one of my
Yeah, that's fine.
She was actually
And then
doing
from
her
3 to 7.
application yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, look at the answer.
Yes.
The concavity is very, very subtle because it's changing often.
2 out of the 3 of her books are the same as mine. Because I
But
made
like
her
on a
You have to go,
rubric,
you know?
when we grade these, it'll be like,
It's funny.
are they
I don't know.
1 point
Yeah, I wonder if
increasing
anyone
the
So
would
might
put it, but like
separate.
probably.
1 point if
But
it's
honestly, that was
concave
like
up and concave down at the right
Like
point.
2 games a week.
And then maybe 1 point if it goes through a
Then
point
make
that
it
it's supposed to go through, or
Okay.
like, it might be like, the derivative here needs to be 0 or something.
I really wanted to go to Auburn, but apparently it's hard out that I can't go to college, so maybe I was like, maybe we'll surprise me. Yes. I'm kind of rich. Like, maybe not, we'll see.
Yeah, my parents have always like made it clear that they're not paying for my college, and also that I'm not allowed to use the GI Bill. So, so my dad was in the army after
Yes.
9/11, and so
Don't
kids
know.
basically free college for 4 years, and then you can split it up among your kids, or you can split it yourself, or
Okay,
whatever.
this stuff is correct.
He wants to do
So it's decreasing,
You already have 3 master's degrees, but yeah.
decreasing, is this you? Okay, well, your graph looks like it's decreasing.
Wait, say what you're saying. Increasing.
Your graph is meant to have it
So
there.
before his own, he said like but his parents were
It's concave down.
like his brothers,
Yeah.
they called him 0.
Or just, you can maybe slide this over, like you can still do the same y value. But that's, 2 and 1 has to.
Because like when you're horizontal line, it's the slope is 0. When you're vertical, there isn't a slope. It does not exist.
Hey, apply for those Arkansas scholarships though. So that you have the good enough sheets.
Yeah, but you're right, it does have to go through 2 and 1 now, so.
I used to have a but I was also
Okay, so you gotta go through
That was
there,
awesome.
but you also think it's increasing from 0 to 4. That's just 1 point, so it's still kind of keep going up from 0 to 4. It doesn't mean that that was the half.
He already has a
Yeah.
job.
Yeah.
He doesn't need to go to college. And if you wait on that, he'll be free.
Your graph is a little different than other people's, but this stuff is right. Decreasing during the time, increasing during the time, increasing,
I know, right?
increasing during this, that's all good. So, all of it.
Yeah, that's what I.
You had to do what's that.
Actually liked her. Wait, I think when she was pregnant, she was like,
Nice.
There's also some negative. So this needs to move up here. Oh, I didn't understand that.
What was the game?
They're just.
I think she liked the
That's
video.
a positive, but also that's a negative.
Actually, I
They
just
just
don't know if she
squeeze those into one segment. So you need to pull that point up without messing up your increasing, decreasing, and punch out.
Yeah, but little birdie told me I cheated.
Limits knowledge, like what you need to have.
A little birdie told me you cheated.
Just, it is on
I
there.
don't know, you wanna explain before you're gonna complain?
How you get the answer negative two.
Hey, did you happen to know what happened?
But if it's on
Birdie yesterday night told me that cheated.
Because you plugged it into the function, not into the drive.
Yeah.
That's what
let me
this is
see if I have a link to some.
Yeah.
And then how'd you get more?
Might have some more FRQ practice.
How did you show me 230 and you multiply it by 230 out?
Yeah, me too.
Can I see your number 59?
Yeah.
I mean, this just looks tricky. It's absolutely.
Well, I was trying to say done, but I just figured that for no reason.
Plus, it's the ratio.
I like it's a looking back. I don't oversee the day I did it. Which is or Z is bad. Like I have to start with
Oh, it's because you're only using it.
Yeah.
2017 number 3.
And I don't know where that's.
It's like trying to scan it with my regular camera. Why isn't
If
this?
you Google search
working?
FRQ
Oh, because-
2017, FRQ number 3, it's a similar type of one. Okay.
Can you multiply to get a common denominator? So like the 2/3 does stay here, it does.
Oh, but I got in the Michigan Tech this year.
To where?
Michigan Tech. Yeah.
So like it's not good, when you multiply this by 2/3, you're only doing that so you can combine them to have a common denominator so you can put these together.
Oh, okay. So because we look at that there and then go to it and we just go.
And on B, you're only solving to make it undefined, so.
See my thing?
It's the addition that
No, let me check to see if I have this email.
Yes. I got you. So you use the parameters you
Okay,
gave you
that's
and
still
then
more
you check it up as numbers.
Okay, so.
So you use -8 and 8 because it gave it to you.
Oh, the inverse.
Yeah.
I would find
0
zero.
because it's the critical numbers you found. Then you plug it into the function. not the
To get
derivatives.
into, so like.
Yeah, only one of my schools is like below.
Oh, Mr. Townsend. So like on questions, like these you have to look like -1.
And that's definitely your beach, and I can't really afford to remember that by.
For the 4/3?
Or like 8 to the 4/3. I forgot, is that like where you multiply it by 4 and then divide it by 3? Or is it the other way?
You don't multiply with exponents. If it was 8 to the 4/3,
What happened?
this is like saying 8 to the
Or did
4th.
they cheat actually use you?
What is 8 to the 4th?
Huh?
A large number.
What was that?
But also, 1 to the 1/3 means what?
I mean the cubed root.
Okay, so what's the cube root of 8? Okay, so you can do the cube root first, or you can raise it to the 4th first. I don't know.
See, I was on the right path, I was just thinking of it the wrong way.
And then, so whichever one you do first, you gotta do the other one second. 2 to the 4th would be,
60.
Chase was the other day?
Okay,
Oh.
okay. That's just, oh, okay.
so yes, you definitely would need to do those better calculations.
Okay.
Are you talking about the quiz or?
But it's -8. Would that make a difference? Oh, because you have to add this.
Oh, I forgot. Were you talking about that for the quiz or the test? Is that for the quiz? This is for the
59, yeah. Speaking of stuff I have to do, I haven't started reading the book. It's so, I'm pissed that we chose that book. Like, I don't know why we wouldn't have chosen a book that was a lot smaller. First of all, I know. It's like, can you plan, please? Because these screen is off. I'm gonna be weird, so I'm gonna take the lead. It's just annoying that she changed it literally like the day before. And like I was planning on reading it until after this calculus stuff was happening on Thursday, and then I have Spanish because I'm Thursday too.
About to have a whole week off.
Yes, but they're just piling stuff on for this week.
Why'd you let yourself get behind?
And you know, it's not that I got behind, it's just every teacher is giving a quiz or a test this week. But that's okay, because then we won't have one the week coming back from
I
Thanksgiving.
know, we'll still have one when we come back.
Well, the week of, when we come back, no.
It's actually just for you.
It's
Like,
just
you're the only one.
that would make sense. Mr. Townsend, if I beat you at bowling, then you have to give me an 100. That's only fair.
That's,
Or if you catch a bigger fish than me, I'll take a 0.
no. You'll cheat.
No, what?
Also, I'm not a good fisher.
Exactly.
I could probably beat you at bowling, but
I don't
not
know.
fishing.
I don't know. I had my basketball game
I'll
on
play
Friday.
dirty, I don't care.
Did Joe win?
Yeah, I scored 27.
Oh.
Yeah, 27 in bowling's not very good.
No, in basketball.
In bowling.
In bowling would be crazy. The last time I went bowling, I got 6 strikes in a row.
Holy crap.
And then what happened? You choked the rest of the game?
No, that was the end of the game.
Oh, why didn't you play right after that? While you were hot?
No, so like I did, it just didn't go as well as the 6 strikes. I know.
Sorry, I'm on.
So it looks like I did.
He's on the back end.
Okay.
Is your card? Yeah, it's the new one. Sorry, I was so materialistic. Not me.
I guess one other thing to consider is, of course, you guys always want to study the most that you can and do the best that you can, but think about when we come back from Thanksgiving break, and after a couple classes we will spend a class or two doing review for the semester exam review. When it comes to that time, you're not going to want to have to be trying to still learn this or review this. You want to feel pretty good about this stuff so that you can actually review the stuff from limits and the second unit where we did chain rule and quotient rule and product rule. Maybe not that one very much. And you probably want to review related rates and implicit differentiation, the other stuff we did this semester. You're not going to want to have to spend a good amount of time before the semester test on this stuff. So Make sure you're learning it in a way that you're going to remember it so that you don't just have to start all over again in a couple weeks.
Or you can use this. You can plug in the class and have it on your back. It's okay. So 11 and then you do that. Yes, that's a
Finish? You gotta turn that. I added a couple puzzles to my website. Ever any good for them?
I think you've seen most of them, but I think there's one on there I didn't show you, but you may have seen it before. Okay, you guys still have 45 minutes, so still happy to help, but doesn't look like anyone is needing help yet, so just make sure you speak up and advocate for yourself if you need it.
I think it's like, you're obviously connecting the dots and then because it's differentiable, like you have like a sharp curve, so basically whenever there's like a connecting, it's gonna be a curve instead of like a sharp turn.
Okay, so, and if it's contour down, goes like that. So if you use contour down, then it goes like that. If it's contour up, it's gonna go like that.
I guess so.
Okay,
wasn't here Friday, so.
Thanks. I did not say this at the start of class, but I don't think it applies too much here. But do remember that the late work, there was only 1 or 2 grades here since your Unit 4 test. The review that you're either working on or finished up with, and the curve sketching practice FRQ that you're supposed to turn in before class or at the start of class. But if you did not have that finished, make sure that you complete it and at least get late credit. But I will need to know that, or I will need to have it completed from you. Before we start the test. Not too much longer, and we will be finished with derivatives and moving on to antiderivatives. I couldn't find part E on there. Yes, what's important, or I think so, at a quick glance, what's important is that it's increasing and decreasing at the right time. Wherever this is decreasing, yours has to decrease. Wherever it's increasing, yours has to increase. Concavity has to be correct. So wherever it's concave up or concave down, it has to match up with your graph. What can be different and why it says there could be multiple. Because like you don't know the y value. You don't know what it started at or what it decreased to. So like they just assume the origin, but they don't really know where. So, and then if there's any points given to you, those would be average. See here. So they didn't assume that. There should be a point of 0, 0. So that can't be correct. It's got to go to that.
I don't know. I just don't know. Would you say that this graph
So what I say about it?
I think that's all we would.
This is negative 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Great.
But does it get to 3 points too?
Oh, no, it doesn't.
There's 3 points that it has to go through.
Okay. So,
Has to go through 0, negative 3. You got that.
okay.
It's got to go through 2, 1. You don't have that. It's got to go through negative 2, 1. You don't have that.
Why, so is it Is it saying that like this one and this one both equal 1?
Yeah, I'm just combining them into one.
But then after I add those, then it would be decent.
If it's increasing, decreasing, going through the right points, and has the right concavity, your curve sketching is acceptable. Make sure you guys are careful on the curve sketching questions. They often give you a point or two, and if your graph does not go through those points, your graph cannot be correct. If they're giving you a few points, they expect that part of the graph to be accurate. So, like the last page, the last practice FRQ gives you 3 points in the directions. Make sure your graph is going through those 3 points.
Oh, sorry. Thank you.
Yes.
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 Then we can do
I think it's the one that like she used to say. But she used to say.
Lucy.
How many other dogs?
Yeah.
Did they just like randomly get you one?
Yeah, I was like at state and we had is it great?
That's good. That's a good point.
Okay, it's just
Maybe it just means for like the whole year.
But it's like, you know, honestly, like, you just have to recognize it has anxiety in it, but then you don't have to do anything with it, and usually it's very to like -0.5 to 0, and it isn't from there. Well, it's not that like it's constant over down, it's just like if it's negative because it's like
Maybe
going
negative.
down. Yeah. And so you literally say it's
So what-
negative, and then your justification is like, oh, like during this lesson, so at 0.5 is 0, or -0.5
Or
is 0.
just changes.
It's like easier
Yeah,
than
just change
it's like
the point
you
and
wanna
then
make it
do it.
harder because it looks like it should be, but it's not. My A justification is
Yeah, I just said just everything, that's okay.
you'll know.
Yeah. I just got my mom like, no, what it says, but and I was like, we came up with a plan for it. Cause we said we're not traveling during Christmas because like Max is coming back and he's doing all the but then I was thinking we should go to Las Vegas because postponements wedding. But then she was like, no, we should go to New York. So like, we're going to New York. I've never done it before. I was shocked. For Christmas. Yeah. I don't see that. Yeah, I feel like the only time I would like go there would be during Christmas.
Yeah, a spring.
Other than that, it's just like once a week. Yeah,
It's really cold.
that sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder what would be fun. Oh, the Rockets or whatever. Is that like my favorite? Do you know what I'm talking
I
about?
never seen it. I've seen
I feel like my brother would buy it for them.
No, it's good. I saw Wicked on Broadway and I saw Jared Hanks on Broadway.
Oh, what is that?
I like Jared Hanks.
What time is it?
Did you watch Heaven's End?
I love it.
You should. I've always wanted to watch that. I think the tickets are kind of expensive now. You should. Like, you wouldn't think it is.
But it is.
Yeah, like I like plays.
Yeah.
It's really pretty because sometimes you can go like on skate.
Yeah.
I want to go to the
Oh, that would be really fun. Very cool. I'm the cursed child. Really? Back to the Future. That's crazy.
Don't go see those.
No.
See like the ones that it's all like
Oh yeah. What about that movie? Jacob Blake in it? Yeah. Only because he's in it. It's really good about.
like it was about the witch.
I like that
If
one.
it was if the people who wasn't
Oh yeah. I like that. A lot.
I remember you talking about this FRQ and like explaining like how to find like the inflection points.
Mhm.
But I'm confused as to like how like this isn't an inflection point because it like changes too fast. But then like how is this one?
Well, what is an inflection point?
It's like where it goes from positive, like increasing to decreasing.
When what goes from
The
increase?
slope of the first root.
Okay. Which is the same thing as concavity.
Yes.
So when this is increasing, it's concave up. When this is decreasing, it's concave.
Oh, it's still decreasing there.
Yeah, concave down followed by concave down. It's not changing concavity
Okay.
there.
Okay.
Here it's concave down to concave up, point of inflection. Concave up to concave down, point of inflection. Concave up to concave down, point of
Okay.
inflection.
Okay.
So think about concavity first, and then wherever it's changing is
Okay.
your inflection point.
So whenever, and if it just asks for concavity, if it's like, so like -5 to 4 would be concave up, and then 4 to 0 would be concave down.
I would say -4 to 3, and then -3 to 0.
Okay.
It's not really concave down at -3 because it's not negative, it's 0.
Okay.
Not the same thing.
Okay, okay, I see. Thank you.
If you look up ages, if you look up age.
Okay, you guys still have about 20 minutes. Obviously, if you have some questions, please let me know. You can bring it up here or call me over.
But you can't have it all for me. Which page did you prefer to grab?
And there's brackets on another continuous, but not on
Alright.
Questions?
What?
I sketched the graph. Okay.
Was it in the first or 15th one? Oh, okay, okay, that makes sense then.
There you go. Thank you.
Yeah, and it's probably a lot harder to out of state. Like out of state's probably like 20%, but they don't tell you that. I just always am so happy whenever there's no supplemental questions. Oh, you did, yeah. What kind of optional? Oh, you're not optional. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Agreed.
You just start with. I thought you started talking.
I'm saying, we don't have to do any NHS this week. Don't you have to do that today? Yeah.
No.
Why is everything's on the same right now?
It wouldn't.
It's so
I
dumb.
wonder if they thought about that.
I know, I
Right?
agree.
You think they decided against it?
Cause I'm like, it's already like, and then we have NHS on Wednesday.
You don't have to sign up for so many clubs.
Then how am I supposed to get into a good college, Mr. Townsend?
Walk in. Why do you think colleges like to see that stuff?
Cause it shows that you're a well-rounded student.
That can handle all the extras.
Yes.
But if you're sitting there complaining about having to do a bunch of extra,
The stuff with the extra like clubs or like
the time commitment,
oh, yes.
that you can do that and still be successful in your classes. Frankie, are you in the bowling team?
Yep.
Who else is on the team?
You know Sylvia Smith?
Huh?
She's on it.
You look sweet.
Stella Garden. Lindley Yates. I think you have her. She's a senior. Or no, or maybe she has Miss Cross right now.
I don't think so.
Yeah, Addie Pomeroy. I don't know if she could be found in conference.
That name's familiar.
I think that's about it for people that would be in your math.
So yeah, Celia took calculus last year.
Yeah.
I think the lowest her grade ever was like 99.9.
She's so smart. That's crazy.
Johnny goes calculus first day. That's good.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. It's super easy. You just send it. Should I change it? Or can you redo it? Yeah.
Alright, you guys are down to 5 minutes here, so I will see you one more time before Thanksgiving break, which will be our curve sketching quiz. Make sure you have the review finished and turned into Google Classroom. If you didn't have anything else from this unit, make sure that you finish those so that you can get some more points back. And I guess that's it. If you happen to be sick and not here Thursday, you don't have to make it up after break during advisory, so try to be here if you can.